Heroes of Fantasy Football Podcast.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the Heroes of Fantasy Football Podcast. I'm your host this evening, Matt High, joined tonight by Chris Felice and Richie Kopak. Chris, how are we doing heading into week 3? Do you feel confident, sad, mad?
Confidence is not the feeling that I am exhuming at this exact moment. I'm going to be real with you, Chief. I'm pretty battered up, banged up, not battered up. not the word I meant to use. Maybe I'm ready to go into deep fire. I don't know. But yeah, no, definitely not ideal, as you guys might have heard from the episode from the other day. If you watched on YouTube, I did sustain major injuries. Pacheco, White, Mixon, Cooper Kupp, Puka was already gone for me. CD Lamb also apparently has an ankle thing going on now. That's fantastic. I love that. I'm not dying on the inside, I promise. Yeah,
I did call it in our chat. I did say, watch out CD Lamb, and he showed up on the injury report. It's only Wednesday, so it's rest day. Don't read too much into it, but I'm just,
I'm not, I'm going to be honest. For our league, I'm not looking too hot.
Take my trade then.
No, I'm good. I don't need Calvin Ridley or Zamir White. I'll pass.
And my first, just throwing it out there. How are you, Rich?
Me, I'm good. I can't complain, really. It's been a good couple of weeks so far. Leading into it, I mean, I'm holding strong, and our two leagues are redraft and our dynasty, 2-0 in both. So, trying to keep that going, and also lost again in the league that I lost by 0.5 in week 1. I again lost by not 0.5, but still a little amount. And I just can't seem to get it together in that league. So, that one's just in shambles at the moment, but we're going to keep on keeping on. It's only 2 weeks of the season.
You're 0-2. The Giants are 0-2. You guys have so much in common. That's great.
Right.
That's awesome.
You're right.
Yeah, but I think that one of the Giants or Rich has a chance of doing something after, for this season. And it's, spoiler, it's not the Giants. So just throwing that out there. All right, so we're gonna do as usual, our starts and sits of the week. Go over a couple more start sit decisions you have. We had a couple questions that were sent over to us, so we're gonna answer those on today's show. Go over some defensive streamers, like always. But before we get started, if you guys could do us a huge favor, it would really help us out. Go down and below, hit the like button. Share, subscribe to our show. You get notified. Click the bell. You'll get a notification when we post new episodes. We want to try to get more and more out there because there's a lot of people making decisions all week long. So we're here for all of it. So it would just really help us get more seen, get the word out there. So we really appreciate it. So thank you before you do it. But great. So what do you say, gentlemen? Want to just dive right in?
Yeah.
Sure.
All right. Starts of the week. Let's go. All right, Chris, let's start us off here. Who is your first start of the week?
My first start of the week is Amari Cooper. Going up against the New York Giants. A little surprising, I know. He really hasn't looked that great. We've all seen the clips of him dropping all those passes. I'm going to be honest with you. The reason why I'm starting him at all is very simple. Injury-ridden season so far. You might need a wide receiver 2 or a flex, and he's going up against the New York Giants. There really isn't going to be an easier way for him to score you fantasy points this season, in all honesty, going up against that defense. So this is it. This is your time. You can easily slot him in there in your flex wide receiver 2. Call the day if you need to, right? I predict he'll get a touchdown. I'm going to give a touchdown guarantee here. But that doesn't mean he's going to score you 20-something fantasy points, right? Touchdown, think 12 to 15 fantasy points, something around there would be my guess where he's going to end up. And that's so totally fine and serviceable for your flex or wide receiver too. You kind of roll with that. That's pretty much it. I have no other sort of way to justify this pick, but I feel like just going up against the Giants defense is enough to kind of at least bring him in the conversation.
I like that because if you think about it too, he also dropped a couple balls. If he caught one or all of those, we'd be talking about him in a much different light. So I agree. This is the time to start him against the Giants because it should be it's wheels up. The Giants' defense is struggling. So, Rich, who was your first start?
My first start is going to be Kyle Pitts against Kansas City this week.
Is it his year?
I'm sorry?
I said, is it his year? Sorry, I'm making a joke.
No, it has been his year. Let's put it that way. Everyone
For
is
the past
very
3
high on
years.
him. Right. But, and I mean, just kind of looking at last week, I know it was disappointing. So moving on, from what I saw in Kirk Cousins, it's giving me a little bit more of hope. I think that Kirk is getting more settled. We're getting further away from the injury as well. So I think that we're going to have better weeks as we go. And this week right here is a prime time spot for Kyle Pitts, where he's playing against Kansas City. And in week 1, we watched Isaiah Likely light it up against Kansas City. 9 catches, 111 yards. We'd love to see that. And in week 2, Joe Burrow got it done with Mike Gesicki. 7 catches for 91 yards. I know that Kyle Pitts is better than Mike Gesicki. So I definitely can say that with the coverage that's probably going to happen with Drake London, I imagine Kyle Pitts is going to get loose and should have a good week.
Yeah, no, I agree. I do have one question, though. Can you read off the name that you gave Kirk Cousins, please, in your notes? I see it here, and you can't escape it. Say it. Say it now.
All right.
You
Sorry.
cannot escape.
Kirko Chains. Kirko Chains
All
is
right.
going to light it up, all right?
We're gonna put that onto a T-shirt. Mark
Yes.
my words. Mark it right now. That's going on a T-shirt.
For those of you that are not watching on YouTube, please do so. You would have just witnessed Rich just basically choke on the words trying to come out, and it was forced out of him, but it was worth it.
Listen,
Kirko Chains.
Nothing escapes me. Nothing.
That is now what he's being called for the rest of his career.
That's it.
Until after Kirko Chains, Kirk Cousins.
Chains. Anywho, but yeah, I
I
agree.
got homework to do then. All right, so my first start of the week this week is going to be going to the quarterback position, and you can probably guess, but I'm going to go Joe Burrow against the Washington Commanders. This is going to be a common theme until we're proven otherwise. But target the passing game going against the Commanders' defense. You will be very thankful. Their defense is currently allowing over 20 completions per game, 234 yards, and 3 touchdowns per game to opposing quarterbacks. Add in a pissed-off Bengals team after the Chiefs game last week, and you have a Category 5 fantasy hurricane coming right home to Cincy. He also might be getting T. Higgins back this week, which should only help him. The only way Joe Burrow does not absolutely just dominate this week is if he's injured or if they're up 3 scores at the half and they bench all their starters. That is it. Those are the only 2 outcomes you have for him not to show up for you. So this could be his biggest fantasy output this season. So you're going to start him up with full confidence. He could be a top 3 quarterback on the week this week. I love Joe Burrow this week.
Yeah, I can see it. I agree. The defense is also not good. The offense is electric. Chase is there. Higgins will hopefully be there. Even some of the supporting cast is pretty decent at catching the ball. I can understand that. I can get behind it.
I love it.
All right, Chris, start number 2. Who we got?
All right. My second start is also a guy that truthfully has not been living up to expectations. DJ Moore. Granted, this one not so much his fault. Bears have obviously been struggling just a little bit. I mean, not the brightest of starts for the team. However, going up against the Colts, right? This is kind of, up against Tennessee the first week. The offense is I would say middle-ish of the pack. Houston's kind of same thing. India's kind of trending them down, and this is this would be the time for Caleb Williams to actually at least kind of explore options, get a little more comfortable. But against a team that's also struggling offensively a decent amount as well. This is kind of the time right here for him to at least put on a decent showing. Same thing with Amari Cooper. I'm not predicting a 20, 30-point game. I'll predict he'll probably get around. I'm hoping as a DJ Moore owner myself, Probably like 90 yards, 7 catches, maybe 100 yards. Call it a day. Mark it off. I believe Keenan Allen is on the injured list right now. So
Yes.
even if he does play, he'll probably be limited. Dunze is not playing, correct? If I remember correctly.
He played last week.
He did
Yeah,
play
he
last
played.
week.
Yeah, I think he
Gotcha.
might have been limited today, but that was
Yeah.
Wednesdays. Just for those that don't know, Wednesdays are usually a rest day for most players. So don't take too much into that. That the guy popped up on the injury report. I know Nico Collins did today. I'm not worried. He's playing this week. They need rest.
But yeah, this is basically one of those things where it's like we're 3 weeks into the season. You know, I like to think that that Caleb Williams is actually not hot garbage. I'm hoping so. That's
So
kind
do
of
the
what.
Bears.
Yeah, no, literally. Can you imagine? I can't imagine what's going on in that front office. But besides the point, I'm taking that bet. I'm putting in my wide receiver to a flex spot once again. Right, this is one of those things where it's like the guys I'm picking right now are because of injuries, bad matchups, whatever the case may be. Right, and right now, especially with how the season's been, like that's what you should be looking at. So yeah, DJ Moore, second start.
Squeaky wheel game coming in.
I feel like the only people that are actually cheering for Caleb Williams to do badly are Carolina Panthers fans because they're still mad about the trade and how they had to give up their first round draft pick, or overall first. But I digress.
It sucks to suck.
Yeah. I'll lead us off then, I think, right? From my second start here. And I'm going to go with Tony Pollard going against the Green Bay Packers this week. I think Tony Pollard's in a great spot this week going against these Green Bay Packers. They are questionable at best with the run, really. Right now, over the last 2 weeks, on average, they're giving up about 27 fantasy points per game. Granted, they just played against Jonathan Taylor and Saquon Barkley, 2 very good running backs. But Tony Pollard, I believe, is a great running back, too. We've seen it before. He's shown flashes of that. And really, I think he's going to take over. And this week, I can see him kind of just doing more of what he's been doing these past 2 weeks. They rode that hot hand in week 1. Tony Pollard had a great game. The coach came out, said that they wanted to kind of do more of a 50-50 split. But then in week 2, they did pretty much more of the same thing. They just ran more of Tony Pollard. So he looks better. He looks like he's further removed from the injury. So I think we're going to see some reminiscence of what we saw back when he was backing up Zeke and taking over as far as being that electric guy. He has that receiving work as far as, in his game. So I think it's going to be a great week for him. And, I definitely would want to have him in my lineup.
Tony Pollard is one of these guys in the offseason. We kept hearing the coaching staff say, we have 2 starting running backs on this team between Tony Pollard and Tajay Spears. Week 1, it was all Tony Pollard. And we heard it again. We have 2 guys. 2 guys are great. Week 2, Tony Pollard all again. It's wheels up for Tony Pollard. This is the guy we were hoping we were drafting last season. This is him. I think he's going to be one of these really, really good. We're going to be talking about him at the end of the season. I think that he was one of the best values in drafts because he's getting a ton of work. This offense clearly can't trust Will Levis to do much of anything except fumble the ball or do whatever he did last week. I don't even know what that was.
Be bad.
So they're going to run this game through the run game, and it's going to be Tony Pollard all the way. I love this start. He's an awesome start this week.
The Green Bay secondary is scary, so Will Levis is definitely going to have a rough day unless he hands it to Tony Pollard.
Yeah.
Who is he going to have a rougher day against, the secondary or himself?
Oh. Yes.
Let the masses decide, and by masses I mean Will Levis, and we'll see. we'll see when he plays.
Yes. Well, it'll be fun. So we'll get into what defenses to target, and that's one of them. All right, so I'm going to dive in here with my final start of the week. It's going to be Jackson Smith and Jigba going against the Miami Dolphins. Genie's out of the bottle at this point, coming off a 16 target. That's 16 targets. That is wild. That's a wild number.
Love it.
117-yard game. We finally got the JSN breakout. We've all been waiting for it. So if you've had him for any length of time, you're like, I'm just waiting. Boom, last week was it. With Kenneth Walker out, the offense was forced to get creative, and that just came in a huge boom week for JSN. I don't see how this team can watch the film from this past week and go, yeah, we're not going to do that again. They're just going to continue to pepper him with targets. Now, Charbonnet doesn't seem to be an effective runner through what we saw. So I think if Walker sits this week, which looks very likely, he was a do not practice today. I don't really got to watch those practice reports for the rest of the week. But if he doesn't, they're going to run the ball through the air with JSN. Underneath routes, screens, they're going to just set him up. His ADOT is going up a lot higher than it was last season. So I don't think we're going to get another 16 target game this week, but it's not going to be too far off, I feel like, because that's how they won last week. They targeted their wide receivers. It's clear that Tyler Lockett somewhat fell out of favor last week, so I expect another big game. Matchup, not the greatest matchup, but I think the targets are going to be there, and he's going to have weekly upside to hit the end zone if the O-line can protect Geno. So you should expect him to put out a solid wide receiver 2 performance in week 3. So start him up. He'll be good.
While
Yeah,
sorry, go ahead, Richard. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, just as somebody who just recently acquired him in Dynasty, I actually just traded for him last week before the week 2 performance. It was very relieving to see this because I was kind of questionable at my decision what I did. But overall, I like where I'm at right now, and hopefully there's going to be more of this, I'll say.
I'm going to say this, right? Erring on the side of caution here to temper expectations. Like you said, Matt, I'm not anticipating another 16 target game, especially going up into this week and also next week against Detroit. Would I say he's wide receiver 2 worthy? Only if you have injuries. This is kind of a solid flex in my personal opinion. At least I think. I mean, for where you drafted him, still fantastic value, right? 100%. But yeah, I'd be a little just hesitant. I mean, obviously Christian Gonzalez was on DK Metcalf for a majority of the time there. And while yes, DK Metcalf did have that fantastic 56-yard touchdown, 100%, there wasn't too many other highlights of DK Metcalf beyond that. There's a reason. So I imagine there'll be more distribution between targets between DK and JSN. Still 100%, really encouraging to see. I just want to see more of it before I trust him in a wide receiver 2 slot there. If you need him for a flex, go for it.
Had one question before we move on to our sits. Now, Chris, do you say start DK Metcalf this week or sit him? Because I need to know for a friend.
Okay. So I plead the fifth. I will not be answering this question. I have been wrong.
We got
2
him.
weeks. I've been wrong 2 weeks in a row, and I am absolutely never mentioning that man ever again in a start or sit situation. He has burned me twice, and I refuse to do it a third time. So you all may start or sit him as you will, and so will I, just not on air. Good luck with that.
Perfect. All right. It doesn't help me at all, but that's okay. I need to know, man. I got him in my lineup. I got to see if I should expect a big week or not. But either way. All right, let's dive into our sits of the week. All right, Chris, start us off with your first sit of the week.
I have a bit of a surprising one. Zach Moss going up against that Commanders defense. The reason is actually something you alluded to earlier, Matt High. Commanders, horrible against the pass. I anticipate this to be a very pass-heavy game. Not something Zach Moss truthfully really shines at to a certain extent. I don't think he's going to really get much going here. I mean, he's projected like 9.5 points anyway. If you're hoping for some supreme breakout because he's going up against a bad defense, I would much rather trust those wide receivers than Zach Moss. I would avoid him for the time being. Start someone who's a little more, I would say, stable in my mind, and then go from there. I'm not all convinced on the Zach Moss train at the current moment.
Yeah, it's tough with Zach Moss because this team has been a little weird this season so far, where we haven't seen that big boom week yet. It's coming. I feel like you can't be confident in playing him or Chase Brown. I think Chase Brown will end up being the guy later in the season, but for right now, it's just kind of like hands off because it's not really doing much. If this week is going to be through the air, you're hoping one of these guys gets like an end zone rush attempt, and then that's
Right.
it. But if they don't, you're not going to be happy. They're not running the ball as effectively, and it's not going to be pretty. So I agree. Rich, who was your sit of the week?
My set of the week is kind of a low-hanging fruit, I feel like, but I just, might as well say it. Don't start Matt Stafford this week. He's going against the Niners. The Niners have a pretty solid defense, and Matt Stafford doesn't have. Sorry, Chris, you can cover your ears. I know it hurts, but he doesn't
I
have.
can't
Cooper
cover them.
Kupp.
There's a headset on.
Ah, he doesn't have Cooper Cup or Puka Nakua, and he's also missing pieces of his line, his offensive line. So already shaky, with one wide receiver. Granted, it is the great Cooper Cup, but without either, I'm definitely away, steering clear of him.
I've literally never been more hurt in my fantasy career than at this exact moment in this league. Like, I thought last year when I lost Cooper Cup at the beginning of the year, that was like my biggest low. No, it got so much worse. It's so bad.
You are the fantasy reaper this year. Like it's
Right
not
now,
good.
absolutely.
So,
It's actually crazy. Everyone I trade away gets injured. Everyone I have gets injured at the current moment. It's nuts.
do me a favor after the show. Take a screenshot of your dynasty team and maybe some other teams too, so I can just warn the fantasy community. Like, if
You're gonna have
these
a
guys,
hard time.
trade them away.
I'm
them
in
away
enough
immediately.
leagues to where I think I almost have every single
Oh geez,
player.
so everyone's screwed.
So everyone, yeah, I'm in like 10 leagues. By the way, guys, don't beat me. I'm addicted to football. It's really bad.
It's gonna be fun. You'll be fine. All right.
Sure.
At least that's what you have to tell yourself, right?
Yeah.
I'm gonna jump in here for my sit of the week, and this one really hurts. It's gonna. I might choke up and have a tear roll down my face. Anthony Richardson going against the Chicago Bears is my sit this week. As I said, this really
Wow,
pains
the
me.
mighty have fallen.
I know. Now, being the resident AR truther on the podcast, some things there's just sometimes where you have to do it. This isn't a Bryce Young level indictment on AR, so don't be scared off. But we've seen a boom week for fantasy and a bust week, and the bust week was pretty bad. He definitely has some things he's got to work out as a passer. That is always been clear. It also doesn't help when his receivers drop catchable balls. Last week was one of those instances where he could have had not a ton more stats, but still something somewhat serviceable. He could have had about like 15 to 18 fantasy points if they came down with some of those balls. This is just not the week to take a chance on him because he could bust. The Bears' defense is amazing. They're allowing the fourth least amount of fantasy points to opposing quarterbacks so far on the season. And Anthony Richardson has only played 274 snaps in the NFL. He was always going to be a project quarterback, which is what we've been saying the whole time. But for fantasy, he can have these spike weeks and be one of these fantasy studs because of the legs. Now, I do have faith that he's going to figure it out. He's going to be fine. But for fantasy this week, you just need to sit him. Don't take the chance. He could easily come out and score 2 rushing touchdowns and just run all over the Bears. That is in his repertoire. That could very well happen. But he can also come out, not have anyone to throw to, and just throw a couple picks against a really good defense, and you're sitting there wishing you played someone else. Now, for full disclosure, I have Anthony Richardson in our redraft league. I am sitting him. But the person I'm sitting him for may surprise everyone on the podcast as well as in the world. I'm sitting him for Derek Carr.
Oh God!
Yes. You all know I cannot stand Derek Carr as a quarterback or as a person as we lose Chris as Chris falls out of his chair. But I'm buying in. So if that means anything, it just means Derek Carr is going to be terrible and Anthony Richardson is going to put up a 40-point game and I'm going to look stupid. But that is the decision I am making, and I'm sticking to my guns. I'm putting my money where my mouth is.
Derek Carr has looked good.
Unlimited pass attempts, but I'm hoping the efficiency stays the same. This offense looks really good. I like what I see. So that just means this is going to be the week that it falls apart because I'm starting him. So I'm sorry.
I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure I just saw a red light outside. I actually think Judgment Day is here. I'm pretty sure we're getting raptured at this exact moment. I'm a little terrified. I'm not convinced you're Matt. I'm convinced you're some sort of like doppelganger that took his place. Yeah. Oh God.
So yeah, that's where I'm at with Anthony Richardson this week. He will be fine. Mark my words, he will be fine. Just not this week. And maybe not next week, teaser. All right, let's do our defensive streamers. Big one. I think the number one defense this week is going to be the Bucks. I know they're a little bit beat up, but Bo Nix has not looked very good. He's kind of been a rookie, which should be as expected. But usually in defenses, I try to target rookie quarterbacks, and you usually do better more often than not. So another one, obviously, Raiders versus Panthers. I don't care that Bryce Young is getting benched, and now it is Andy Dalton. He's the backup there. He couldn't beat out Bryce Young before the season, so that should say all you need to say about him.
I will say though, just sorry to interrupt, but I did see Max Crosby pop up with something or other today. It seemed like he was limited in practice, so I know it's a rest day. Usually, Wednesdays are Wednesdays, but just it's going to make the Raiders defense look not as enticing if Max Crosby's not out there.
That is very true. Very true. Obviously, the Bears against Indianapolis for the reasons I just said about Anthony Richardson woes this week. And the Packers versus the Titans should be fine because Will Levis likes to make some boneheaded decisions on the field. So I expect the Packers defense, who just shut down Anthony Richardson and the Colts, and allowed Malik Willis to throw for one single touchdown, and offense didn't really do much. So Tennessee Titans, they're a better defense, so it could be a little closer of a game, but I think they're going to be one of the safer ones. Any other defenses that you guys are targeting this week at all?
I guess if I'm just going to mention one, Seattle versus Miami is interesting just because, Skylar Thompson should be the quarterback to start this week, and I believe that he wasn't that great last time we saw him. Seattle's looked not bad, and Seattle's at home, so yeah.
Yeah, the only other one I'll add is maybe Cleveland into the Giants because it's the Giants.
I feel like they're mostly rostered though. But yeah, if they're out there, they're out there, then yeah,
very 100%. Good chance they're already rostered. But just in case.
Yeah, I just pulled up a stat that I looked at when the news was announced about Bryce Young being benched. I want to read it to you guys and see your thoughts here. So the last time we saw Andy Dalton start for the Carolina Panthers was back in Week 3 of 2023. His stat line was 58 pass attempts, 34 completions, 361 passing yards, and 2 touchdowns. He finished as the QB7. That week, Adam Thielen was the wide receiver 4. DJ Chark was the wide receiver 12, and Miles Sanders was the RB12 on the week. Should we be, I guess, hopeful for the Panthers?
Let me say this, right? I believe I said this last week as well. There is most definitely a sort of worry for all defenses going up against a quarterback that you've never really seen. There's no film to a certain extent. It's very ragtag like football, and that generally like pains defenses. There's a saying in most competitive sort of games, in a sense, um, where it's at a certain point in time, it's it's almost easier to play against the top level of player than someone in the middle range because they don't know all the right strategies. They don't know everything else. They just kind of do random stuff and they kind of throw you off a bit where all of a sudden they do something almost accidentally to get into a winning position, not even realizing. Similar theorem here, right? It's why Joshua Dobbs last year looked really well, or really, really good, I should say. It's the same exact thing. So there's a chance. Am I willing to take that chance? No, not for the most part. but if you're desperate, if you had Jordan Love and Tua and every other quarterback is gone on your team on, let's say, Dynasty Superflex, and you only have Andy Dalton and like some other guy, sure, I guess. If you
First, you have to say, we're sorry that's your position, but yeah.
Yeah, no, seriously.
So, all right, let's get into our start sit combos. We're going to do the first question we got. Jerome Ford against the Giants this week or DeAndre Swift versus the Colts. Rich, let's start with you first.
So I'm going to have to side with Jerome Ford going against the Giants over Swift. Really, it's just that, I mean, number one, Swift to me does not look very enticing at all. If you have him, I'm sorry. But yeah, just hope for better days there. But nonetheless, just the Jerome Ford side of it is it's just purely going against the Giants. The Browns are at home. And, I mean, Jerome Ford, I understand John Foreman got involved last week, but still, I think Jerome Ford should be safer than Swift if we're looking at just those two.
Sorry about that. Yeah, I agree. Jerome Ford for me, 100%. As Richie said, I'm not a big believer of Swift right now. Something's wrong. I don't like him. He's bad at games. Yeah, no, I really have nothing else to add. Ford all the way.
Yeah, the only thing I want to just put out there is Deontay Foreman did get a little bit more work last week. I don't know if that was just how it fell out in the running back, the running back room, just in the reps, but it was a little bit not appealing to me. Because the whole appeal with Jerome Ford this year was that he was going to get everything because Nick Chubb was on IR, he wasn't going to play. Pierre Strong was just a guy, and Deontay Foreman wasn't he cut and then brought back and then. So
I think so.
It's one of those situations. This could be one of the week where they both do fine, but I think Jerome Ford is where I lean as well. We have two more questions. First question: what do you do with Michael Pittman? He is the target leader on the team, but it amounts to jack diddly squat. So it's 4-alarm fire for me for Michael Pittman. I don't think he's going to do anything. Josh Downs is coming back this week potentially, so it's another mouth to feed in this offense that doesn't pass often. I did not expect this offense to be as run heavy as it is, but now that we've seen what we've seen in through the first 2 weeks of the season, what are you doing with Michael Pittman? Are you just sitting him all until you see, signs of life, or are you trying to put him in your roster?
So, as someone who heavily invested into Michael Pittman during his drafts, because I'm a moron, I guess, I believed, apparently. Here's what I'm going to say, and what I recommend all of you to do. You are going to bench Michael Pittman probably until week 5. Jacksonville. That is the next time I would even bother recommending starting Michael Pittman, unless if he has an insane game. my thought process is very, very simple. I think that they're still working on some kinks in the sort of machine there in Indianapolis. I'm hoping that Michael Pittman is a part of that and will, get better as well with Richardson and everything else. Because I truthfully believe this sort of connection here, like the issuing connection between Richardson and Pittman, is a big, I feel like, hurdle for Richardson, not only just in fantasy, in a sense, but also just as a team. To be quite honest with you, which needs to be addressed immediately. They need to make this work. So I'm gonna say you're gonna sit him. I am personally, unless if I have physically no other option because of injuries, I'm sitting Michael Pittman until at least week 5. Chicago and Pittsburgh are his next stops. Not a big fan.
Agreed. Rich, are you following suit there?
I agree, 100%.
Okay. Last discussion we're going to have here is the Kansas City Chiefs running back room because we just had Kareem Hunt signed there. Carson Steele was probably one of the most added players on waivers this week, and Samaje Perine. Now, let's start with this week alone. Who would be the starter for you? So, Chris, real quick, put them in order. Carson Steele, Kareem Hunt, Samaje Perine for week 3.
Carson, Samaje, Kareem Hunt.
Rich, what about you?
Same as Chris. It's Carson, Samaje, Kareem.
Okay. Now, fast forward 3 weeks from now. Kareem Hunt has now he's learned the playbook. Does that change anything, or are we sticking with the same order?
If anything, I would argue he takes Samaje's spot. I'm going to say one thing. I'm only going to give this point. He, this past week, came in for Pacheco. He had that, fumble, horrible, right? They still let him do stuff. They clearly trust him enough, right, to understand that was a mistake. I know a lot of people are saying, oh, but the fumble happened, and oh, that's a horrible news, and the Chiefs don't trust him. I disagree. I would argue that them still giving him consistent work shows signs of trust, right? It is Carson's spot to lose. If he messes it up, it's over. But Kareem Hunt, I feel like, is not going to come in here and become the number one guy unless Carson loses it. I feel like he's going to be the guy there. We have to also remember, Pacheco is out for 6 to 8 weeks. He will be back before the fantasy season is done. Hypothetically, I'm hoping. But yeah, so that's kind of where I'm at right now. I think they need stability. They realize that. So they're going to try and get one guy in there and kind of run him through. So that way the rest of the offense can kind of function as it should. That's Carson.
And let's not forget, too, Clyde Edwards-Helaire is still there as well. He's on the PUP right now, so he's got, I think, 2 weeks left. So he will be back again, too. So this is going to be one of those backfields that could get real ugly real quick, where you don't know which guy it is. You just know someone's going to do something. So Kareem Hunt was great. He was one of the best running backs in football, and then until he wasn't. He hasn't been a part of this team for a long time now. He was released, and let's not think that when he went to the Browns, he was some stud running back. He was very inefficient. If he didn't score a touchdown, you were not happy. So, Rich, do you think Kareem Hunt is going to be anything this season, or should fantasy managers, add him, obviously, because it's the Chiefs offense. Anything can happen, but do you think he's going to be one of these guys that hits waivers at some point in the season as well, that he's just not showing up?
It's just that, for me, it's Kareem Hunt really didn't impress over there with the Browns. He lost the job to Jerome Ford, Pierre Strong, and they have Deontay Foreman over there who, they kept on the roster and let Kareem Hunt go, So, how impressive really is Kareem right now in his career,
I love the way that you said that. It's like they kept Deontay Foreman over him. Of course he sucks. I could feel it. I could feel it in your voice. You could say it.
We heard what you were putting out, just in different ways. Don't worry, we got it. We're the rich translators.
So maybe he's got some juice because he's been sitting around for a little bit. but then again, it's going to take some time. And for now, I think that Chris summed it up nicely. I do think it is Carson Steele's job to lose, as far as the way that I look at it.
100% agreed. He is going to be the guy that gets first dibs of the opportunity, and he gets to make whatever he wants out of it. So we will see. This is going to be one of those backfields. I think I might just, like, I didn't put a bid in on him, or at least a high bid. I put like a couple bucks down for this week because I was like, if I get him, great, but I don't know if I'm going to be confident every week going with the Chiefs running back room outside of Pacheco, which obviously can't happen for a bit. So that is going to wrap things up for us this evening. So good luck to everyone in your week 3 matchups. Just want to throw out that me and Rich are sitting up there at 2-0 in our Dynasty League. And hey, Rich, Chris, what happened last week? Just,
You think you're so funny. you think you should have. You think you should have.
I just remember you saying that trophy's coming back with you. And which team came out on top? I know your team was riddled with injuries,
you took a lot of game for someone who
win.
lost half their starting roster.
A win is a win, my friend. A win is a win.
You're right. A win is a win. But you know what matters?
It's only week 2, boys. It's only week 2.
The trophy.
Or week 3. I'm sorry.
Yeah, true. Yeah, we're going week 3. I'll be back. Don't worry. I will remember this transgression. You will repay me, whether you like it or not.
That's fine. I think we play in probably week 11 or 12. So
by then, maybe I'll have my roster back.
maybe. I don't know.
No, the other half will be injured.
Yeah, I was gonna say you might just lose the rest of the guys. But all right, everyone, thank you for tuning in to another episode. We really appreciate it. As we said at the top of the show, please like, share, and subscribe. Leave us a comment below with players that you want to start this week or you have questions on. We would love to answer those. You can follow us on X at the Heroes FF. We are on TikTok at the Heroes of Fantasy, Apple Podcast, Spotify, all those fun ones. We are on there. So leave us a review with a question and we'll read it on the show. All right, everyone. So long. Good luck. Have fun.
So.
Thank you again for tuning in to another episode of the Heroes of Fantasy Football podcast. Follow us on Twitter at the Heroes FF.